we continue a true and faithful relation of what passed for many years between Dr. John Dee and some spirits, according to Meric Casaubon, 1659, derived, of course, from the Cotton Appendix. April 24th, Tribuna Aprilis, 24, Friday, in the margin, so it was D, that's what the triangle means. Prayers to God made in respect of this strange and new doctrine, requiring his divine majesty to be merciful unto us, and to give us wisdom and faith, that we may herein please him, and that we cannot find how we may do the thing required, being contrary to the laws of Moses, Christ, his church, and of all nations. Therefore, seeing God is not contrary to himself, we desired that we might not be contrary to him or his laws, and so on. Well, perhaps in this matter. But what about the difference between the laws of the Ha-Kahanim, who are listed as the enemies in the Bible, all those professional access-controlling priests, regardless, I'm not just talking about Kohens and rabbis, and I'm talking Mobids and all sorts of titles that these people give themselves. We need to distinguish between revealed and inspired law and these laws, and perhaps the personal laws that people have for themselves, or that that the personal way that they really understand these other things, right? Okay, D, not long, lo, there appeared a great flame of fire in the principal stone, both standing on the table before Edward Kelly, which thing, though he told me, I made no end of my prayer to God, and behold, suddenly one seemed to come in at the south window of the chapel, right against Edward Kelly. But before that, the stone was heaved up an handful high, and set down against, well, which thing Edward Kelly thought did signify some strange matter toward. Then after, the man that came in at the window seemed to have his nether parts in a cloud, and with spread abroad arms to come toward Edward Kelly, at which sight he shrinked back somewhat, and then that creature took up between both his hands and the stone and frame of gold, and mounted up away as he came. Edward Kelly catched at it, but he could not touch it. At which thing, being so taken away, and at the sight thereof, Edward Kelly was in a great fear and trembling, and had tremorum cordis for a while. But I was very glad and well pleased. Excuse me. Doesn't that remind you of some of these images of both Adam Kadmon, the Shekinah, God, that people come up with, which are three separate things. Now, the Shekinah in Kabbalah became this idea of the persona of God, but originally it was like the angelic presence and that sort of thing. But in the Arabic, you see in the Quran a furtherance of that meaning, but it doesn't get into the idea of God. It's also a tranquility. But so we have that backwards Q, paragraph thing. Here appeareth a fire in this other stone also, and a man in that fire, with flaxen hair hanging down upon him, and he is naked unto his paps, and he seemeth to have spots of blood upon him. He spake and said as followeth: If I had intended to have overthrown you, or brought you to confusion, or suffered you to be led into temptation beyond your strength and power, then had the seas long ago swallowed you, yea, there had not a soul lived amongst you. And in the margin it says Christus. But the law and tidings to mankind of gladness are both grounded in me. I am the beginning and the ending, and behold, happy is he that delighteth in me, for in me is truth and understanding. Whatsoever you have received of me, and without me you have received nothing. Behold, I myself was even the figure of misery and death for your sins. Why, therefore, disdain you to be figured after me? I will gather the four quarters of the earth together, and they shall become one. And in the margin it says the law and the gospel. And as I have made you the figure of two people to come, and amongst them executors of my justice, so likewise I have sanctified you in an holy ordinance, giving you the first fruits of the time to come. Happy is he that is a serpent in the wilderness, hanged up upon the cross, being the will and figure of my determination and kingdom to come. I am even in the doors, and I will overthrow all flesh. I will no more delight in the sons of men. And says with an O, and in the margin we have D, and Edward Kelly, a figure of two people to some. And that's pointed, asterisk there. Contrary to myself, I teach you nothing, for this doctrine is not to be published to mortal men, but is given unto you to manifest your faith, and to make you worthy in the sight of the heavens, for believing in me of your vocation to come. Therefore I say unto you, rejoice, and be not careful for tomorrow, for I, even I, have provided for you. Sin no more. Behold, none of the orders, either of heaven or earth, are armed to open their mouths in my name, teaching or opening this doctrine, unless it were of me. For I am the first and the last, and I will be shepherd over all, that the kingdom of my Father may come, and that my spirit may be upon all flesh. Where there shall be no law, nor need of light, I myself am their lantborn forever. And in the margin, D says, he answereth to a phrase of my prayer or discourse, this doctrine is not to be published to any man. And behold, I will be as a rock between you and the teeth of Leviathan, which seeketh to set you asunder, and to bring you to confusion. And I am, and am holy, and holiness itself. Out of me cometh no unclean thing. For even as the time of Moses was wonderful to all the Gentiles, even so shall those days come to be unto the nations and kings of the earth. I am a law forever, and behold, power is given unto me from above, and I have visited the earth, and have thrown my curse upon her, and lo, she shall become barren. Now, we can, drop this if we realize that Gentile isn't something that a person is born as. Gentile, the words for Gentile refer to other religions. They've turned their back on, they're polytheists, they worship other than God, they claim to be atheist, various things. But anyways, further in the margin it says, note, unus pastor eo unum avail conatus diabole Moses sterlit astera. He that fasteth and prayeth doth but that which is commanded. He that also fulfilleth my will is justified before me. For who is he that raiseth up, or who is he that casteth down? Yea, even I it is that have taken you for trees, well, for trees, with the U, out of the forest of the world, and have covered you thereto with my wings. And behold, this that is taken away shall be restored again to you with more power, and might shall be in it, and a breastplate unto you of judgment and knowledge. And if there be any of you that seeketh a miracle at my hands, and believeth in my words, let him or her present themselves here the next Monday with the rest, and he shall perceive that I was the judge of Abiram and the God of Abraham. Walk before me as the sons of my father, with an O, and the margin we have the show of 4 trees, what it meaneth, pectorale cum elrim el thummim in righteousness, and follow you that which you call unrighteousness, even with gladness, for I can make you whiter than snow. Your unity and knitting together is the end and consummation of the beginning of my harvest, and I will not dally with you, but I will be mighty indeed amongst you, and lo, I will shortly open your eyes, and you shall see, and I will say, arise, and you shall go out. What I am, I am. Edward Kelly said the flame, and all is disappeared. He said, Gloria Patre, Eu Filius, Eu Spiritus Sancta, Siccus erat in principio, Eu nunc, Eu in sempiterna, seculorum secula. Amen. Edward Kelly said, after that his body had in it like a fiery heat, even from his breast down unto all his parts, his privities and thighs. Deo omnipotente misericorde eo rege seculorum sit omnis, laus honor eo gloria nunc eo semper. Amen. Our unity, in the margin we have our unity of what importance it is, est finis, exordie, messis futura, the ancient token and watchword, foreshowed us, arise, come, and see my judgments. And April 18th is pretty interesting looking too. It is the end and the beginning of the future harvest. I have words in the Lizuvama, and these words denote like an unholy trinity, you could call it. And this reminds me of what's being talked about here, this great fire being that's calling them to violate the commandments, but privately, which a lot of entities will test individuals that to violate taboos or even whatever, and are they going to fulfill their end? Whether or not that's the case, is the action worth doing? Are you violating your own ethics? Do your own ethics need to change? A lot of stuff like that should probably be considered.